Hi there, this is Sten again from the Dutch blog, and today I'm going to continue talking about Tweeklanken. Tweeklanken, yeah. So these are vowel combinations, right? Last week we talked about the oe, ow, etc. Just check out the link in the description. That's going to be the blog post, and also check out the video. It's going to be up there. Today we will discuss some more of the 16 vowel combinations that exist. Today we will look at the ones that start with an I. So that's I, that's I, that's ew. Let's get right into it. So the very first one that we talk about today is the I. I and E. And as you can hear, I, E, they're not very, very far apart. And how that works with vowel combinations, as we saw last week, is that you glide both letters. So I, and over the years that developed into I. The I is the I like ik, like this, because ik means I, right? Is I, there you go, and the e is just like, yeah, that's what the E sounds like in Dutch. So if you put the I and the e together, you get an I, like in fiets, very Dutch word, which means bike. There we go, fiets, alright? So that's E. That's an E that's comparable to the English E in need, keep, sleep, right? It's a great comparison with the word knee, because in English I think it sounds still longer than in Dutch. It's knee in English, right? So it's knee, the English version. It's knee versus knie, knie. So for one we say the K in the end, but it's knie. It's much shorter than knee. Like you can elongate knee if you want to, but the E is shorter. That's the E. Pretty common letter. Now we'll get to one that's not that common. Ew. Yeah, that's probably how you can remember it best. I wrote the W here in brackets because ew is almost always followed by a W. So it's a combination of E, the one that we just learned, and the U. So you have to combine those. So you have I, ew, ew. And to really make that W, that woo at the end, I guess that's why the W is there. Ew. Now it's interesting because you might have heard this kind of combination in the English, which comes from the French, in lieu of, right? It's like in lieu, it's also this U sound, even though it's written with I-E-U, right? It's written like this, in lieu of. The Dutch also have a lot of French influence, so that is also really permeating into this area. So words with the ew, for example, are benieuwd, which means curious, or nieuw, which means new. What you need to know about ew is that it's a pretty rare combination. You won't find it often. One important exception I need to mention is interview, the English word, and we just took that as well. So in Dutch, interview stays interview, even though it's pronounced a little more ewy. So there's no U in that. It's just interview the way we know it. Next up, the I, this one. So this is actually the lange I. There's also a korte I, but I will get to that in a second. The I is a special one. See, it is a digraaf, so it is its own letter by itself. It's actually on par with the Y in the alphabet, in the Dutch alphabet. It's still tweeklank though, so it does fit in this series. So it's a combination of I and J. So I, if you combine it. But that's really not what it is. In the end, it's I, right? So where it came from is that back in the day, words like prijs, which is a price, right, were written like this. This would be pronounced prijs. What they did was that they would just put a J in there, prijs, to make it clear. And for a long time, this was still written as a Y, so you get things like this. Prijzen. Look at this ancient example of a text from the 18th century. You can see that tijd and bevrijd are written with a Y. So that was a pretty common way of writing for a long time, but then at some point in the last century, we got a spelling reform, and then all these Y's were replaced with IJs, and now we have the I everywhere. So nowadays it's just prijs like this. That's it. And the Y, this one, in Dutch called Griekse ei, so Greek Y, or Y, like the French thing, or Y, so that's like Ypsilon in German. That still exists too, but it's really only used in words that come from different languages. Leenwoorden, right? For example, typen, typing from English. Typen, which you write like this, right? Now, one curious thing about the I, because it's also considered a letter, when you capitalize this letter, unlike all the other Tweeklanken, you capitalize both the I and the J. So you would write something like ijver is goed, for example, here, like this. Ijver is goed. You would write it like this because you would capitalize it because it's at the beginning of a sentence, right? And you capitalize both I and J. Now you would not do that with any other of the Tweeklanken, right? So this is a really special case because it's considered to be one letter. And what you should know is about the pronunciation. We have words like dijk. It just sounds like this, you know, that's what I sounds like. Also though, we have words like eerlijk, which means fair or honest. And then we have a like, look at the end. So all the words that end with look, there, looks really bloody. But all the words that end with look, like this, are pronounced with look, like it's a U or something, right? But yeah, it's actually written with an IJ, with an I. The other one is where the IJ was still pronounced short, bijzonder, which means special, so that works. Special is special. So bijzonder is a bijzonder, but it's pronounced bijzonder. Or the place, beautiful little town, Wijchen, right? You write it like this. That's Wijchen. Makes no sense, but yeah, that's what we do. And last but not least, we have the I. See, this is the korte I. It's short because, well, it doesn't have a long J, right? So it's short. It's a short I. That's the only reason. It's not like it's pronounced differently. I and I, they sound exactly the same. Now, this is a combination of and I. So, I. Glide that, you get A. So that's where you get the I. Now this I is used a lot with words that end on heid. For example, overheid. See, there's the heid. Overheid means government. So that's one great example of a word that ends with heid. And there's also words that sound exactly the same but look different, have the different I for their meaning as the lange I. So you have lijden with a lange I, which means to suffer, and you have lijden with a korte I, which means to lead. That's the only difference there is. So it's very important to keep that in mind. The only real way to figure out like what the big, like where to use what is, again, learning it by heart. Rule of thumb is that everything that's look, for example, Lijk, it's always I. It's always I. Same with overheid, etc. It's always with a korte I, always. So that's one rule of thumb. But yeah, for example, with lijden, it's just, you have to know, you know, what you're doing. So yeah, the I, the lange I, is a truly special letter. So I hope you enjoyed this little second episode on Tweeklanken. I will see you next week. And if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below this video. Better yet, on the blog post to this video, which you will also find in the description. And subscribe to the channel, you know, follow us here, and I will see you next week. Bye.